Hey everyone, welcome back once again to the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston Subdivision in HO scale. My name is Daryl Kruse, owner and builder of the layout and your host for episode 29 of season 2022. Can't believe we're almost at our 1 year anniversary of living in our new house. We moved in July 26th of 2021, so it's almost been a full year, and it's not been quite a year since I started work on the layout. That actually didn't happen until September, so we got a little bit to go until we get to the first anniversary. But this week we did add some more track to the second level. We are now up to 65 feet of total mainline track on the second level. About 48 feet of it is in this part of the layout. We have about 20 feet, maybe 17 feet, something like that, on the other end of the second level. Kind of trying to come at it from both ends. Not sure exactly where we'll meet, but we did add two 8-foot sections here at this part of the second level. The 8-foot sections are made out of 1x2s, 8 foot long, and 3/8 inch plywood. The sections are 10 inches wide. I upgraded to some higher grade 1x2s. Been using the cheap stuff for about $3.50 a piece. I used some more expensive, high quality 1x2s that was $6, and I did that because it was hard to find some straight pieces of the cheap stuff. Here you can see where it's going to go across the peninsula to the other side. Anyway, the higher grade is definitely much straighter and has much more dimensional stability, so that definitely helped out in these two sections that I added. It's nice and straight. Everything's pretty even incline, and we are up to 69 inches at the end here, which is where we'll be when we go across. There will be a control point right there going across. That's what I'm going to be working on next week, and then we'll have the West Vaco Trona mine / plant. There's also going to be a control point right there, the West Vaco control point. So I'll be doing the West Vaco control point next week, along with doing some work on the backdrop there. I need to lower it about 3 inches or so. So that's for next week. Here's what we, again, did this week. I added those two sections on right there. Once I had those two sections added, of course, then I was able to put on some more track, roadbed, cork roadbed, and track. I also added in the thin fascia on the front to dress it up a little bit. It's 2.5 inches. You can see just how it's a little bit wider than the 1x2s. That makes it possible for me to hide the wiring. And as you can see, I also have some drop leads that I soldered to the track and ready to hook up to power. Have them all done. I usually don't do every single rail. I make sure that every rail has either a lead soldered to it or is one rail joiner away from a rail that has the lead soldered to it. So there's no more than one rail joiner between a piece of rail and a track lead. Here you can see kind of how it is at my eye level. It's really kind of getting to the point here where I cannot see the top of the benchwork. I think I'm going to have a stool, a step stool. I ordered a couple of them, 9 inches high. So I'll probably have one at this point too, so people can look at the the train at a higher level if they choose. So here you see I have the power coming from the BDL 16, which is under the benchwork here, and ran some 14 gauge lamp wire to all the leads that were hanging down. And then once I had that down, then I stapled them up to the underside. And as you can see, they are invisible, at least from my height. If you're shorter than me, like I think about 7-8 inches shorter than me, then you are able to see the wires a little bit. So here, if you sneak down, that's about 7 inches lower than my height. You can kind of see there. So I'm 6'2", which means if you're like 5'6" or shorter, maybe 5'7", you'll be able to see under there. But for my height, it's pretty much invisible. Here you can see I put the backdrop underneath. So the backdrop is lowered a little bit, and then it's at the same level when it goes across. It's at the same level. One other thing I did this week is finally got rid of the scale trains couplers. I had a big issue with these couplers. One is much too far apart, as you can see here in this picture. This is what it's supposed to be. Here's a auto rack train going by. You can see they're obviously a lot closer together than what the scale trains couplers provide. Also did not like that when you back up the cars, the couplers swing out to the back. That causes a lot of derailments. Here are the same cars with the KD couplers. You can tell the difference in separation. So definitely pull them back together. Probably not as close as they are in the prototype, but definitely look a lot better. Here you can see a close-up. One big problem is you can see the air hoses actually extend past each other from each car. When I first ran these, I kept hearing a clicking noise, and I was like, what is that clicking noise? I couldn't figure it out, but what was happening is as the cars were going around curves and so forth, the air hoses were hitting each other and clicking, and actually turns out that they were causing derailments as the cars were going through turnouts. They would basically hit each other and press against each other, and they were causing some derailment. So that was definitely a problem. I looked at different options, bending them down, but then I was worried about them hitting the rails and so forth. Here's the underside of the scale trains couplers. You can see the little piece that they have. To get the coupler plate off of there, you got to take that piece off, move it off to the side, unscrew it, change the coupler, and then put it back in. I decided for now just to remove the air hose. So you still have the hose on the right side there a little bit. But anyway, I decided to just remove the air hose for now, and everything works great now. No more uncoupling, no more derailments because of the couplers being pushed out and so forth, and things are much better with the auto racks. One other thing I added was some backdrops. This is kind of how the whole second level is going to be. It's mainly going to be 10 inches wide. And most of the scenery is going to come from the backdrops, at least the scenery in the distance. I will extend the backdrop all the way to the end of this little piece of hardboard there. But I am going to, of course, paint the benchwork, paint the track, ballast the track, put some ground foam on the benchwork, some static grass, some trees, shrubs, ground foliage. Here you can see I put some trees here. Those are N scale trees. I will have some HO scale trees there. I will use those to hide the seams. Here you have two different pieces, so that definitely helps to hide the seams. But I really like the way this turned out. I'm not going to keep these two pieces next to each other. If you can see, they're different color, different shade of blue. Really is a little too striking there, so I'm going to not have those right next to each other. These are pictures that I took while I was out on the Evanston Sub last June of 2021. Took a bunch of landscape photos, and you can see I kind of put them together. You can see some mirror images of each other. I have some more. I have enough to do all the way down the line. Anyway, I was able to take these photographs, and I laid them out in order for them to be printed out on a 2x8 foot banner. So Walgreens will print out a 2 foot by 8 foot banner. Here's the photograph, the JPEG that I put together. You can this 2 foot by 8 foot, so you can get actually two different landscapes on there. So the landscapes on the, when I put them on the layout, are only 12 inches tall, so you can get two of them on each 2 foot by 8 foot. You have to have the resolution of your photograph has to be 9600 pixels by 2400 pixels, or something close to it. Otherwise, it's too stretched out and pixelated. So I took the landscape photos, and I used just Microsoft Paint to kind of put them together. In the description, I have some links to the actual photographs. So you're welcome to use them if you want. You can download them, get them printed at Walgreens. It cost, for one 2 foot by 8 foot banner, cost $19. And I was able to get 16 feet of backdrop out of that. So just a little bit over $1 a foot. So that's, I think, a pretty good price. They are having a 50% off. That's how I was able to get the $19. Full price would have been $38. I'm sure if I'm willing to spend that, I'll probably just wait until they have the 50% off price. So we'll see how that comes out. All right, we got to see some trains running. Usually, as I've done these updates, I've always started the trains at the other end of the staging yard. This is the first time we're starting the train out from the east end of the staging yard. And the first place we go from the east end, this represents Green River, from the east, is we're straight into the helix. Now, I'm not going to show the full time in the helix. It's about 6 minutes or so. If I go at 20 scale miles per hour, there's my computer dispatcher screen. So it's about 90 feet scale, 90 actual feet through the helix, and it takes about, like I said, 6-7 minutes to go through. We won't watch the entire thing go through. This is a coal train being pulled up by some Athearn units. There's, I think, 38 cars, and these 3 Athearn units have no problem getting it up the helix. Now, I started it out at the staging yard, and then I went inside the helix here. You wouldn't necessarily have to go inside the helix as you're running trains. In fact, we'll probably have a mole who will be doing this, so as you're running trains, you probably won't even, really need to go into this side of the layout at all. I'm hoping to have coal trains a little bit longer than this. I want to get past 40 cars at least, and maybe up to 50 cars. Kind of see how it goes. I think about 40 cars or so works out really well. Now here I'm outside the helix. And now here I'm outside on the regular part of the layout, waiting for it to come in. So here we have the train. This is kind of where you'll pick it up if you're an operator. You'll pick up your train right here. This will have a backdrop, photo backdrop on it at this point, and of course it'll be the fascia will be painted and some scenery. But this is how it looks right now as we're under construction. I have to say, I think the backdrops look pretty good. There are some mirror images, but we'll hide we'll hide the obvious duplicates with some shrubs and so forth. Seams can be hidden pretty well. I might tape that sky part of it to hide the seam a little bit. And this is coming from Green River heading westward, and this is photographs that I actually took between Green River and Evanston. So this is actually what it looks like. A lot of areas of where things are relatively flat, but there's mountainous areas in the background. I think it's going to look pretty cool. So even though there won't be a lot of scenery on the actual benchwork, I think it'll still be realistic. You'll get a good close-up view of the details on the locomotives and cars and so forth. And then we'll have a pretty good deal of actual scenery on the lower level. And this is where it's going to be, the distance between the levels will be the closest, between all the way down to 10 inches. Right here it's about 12 inches. When we get to the other side of the peninsula, it's going to be more like 16 inches to 18 inches. So it's going to, I think, give a lot of room for scenery. There will be the continuous blue backdrop on the lower level there to hide the support brackets. And then there'll be some photos that will be taped onto that blue background. Some of the photos that I took had some phone lines in the sky area. So I'll be able to use those. I'll cut out the sky part and just tape it onto the blue backdrop here. But this is where we are at this point. We'll do another train. I am going to leave this little window here. So as you're waiting for your train, you'll be able to remove a little door here. So it'll be closed most of the time, but you can move it off to the side if you want to take a look and kind of watch for your train to come up. This is a manifest train, a little bit longer train than the coal train. And so that we don't run into the coal train, we are going to cross over here on this Walther's double crossover. Those are number 6 turnout, so I probably will leave the fascia here at that height that it is, because I am going to put some Pico turnout switch machines there. Don't want to have those visible. So this is the second train coming up, manifest train. It's a Intermountain locomotive at the head end, and then an Athearn with it. And I think there's an Intermountain that's coming as a DPU on the rear end. So altogether, I have put together 450 feet of mainline. All of the lower level, the staging yard, the helix, and a good chunk of the second level. So about 450 out of 570 total. So we only have about 120 feet to go. So we're getting close to having the main line all the way done. I'm still expecting it to happen sometime in October. This next week, just kind of give you an idea of what's coming up. Next week, going to be working on the control point. That's going to be over the peninsula. I think I have scheduled just to do the bench work for that. And then the next week, the track and wiring. Not sure exactly how it's going to happen, but over the next 2 weeks, we'll have that done. And then that'll take us into August, obviously, and then we'll get West Vaco done probably in August, September. Then we'll just kind of continue to move across the second level. Now, I wasn't very good at controlling this train. I was dialing down the wrong knob, and I didn't quite stop it in time. Look how close I got. I did stop it with one wheel left on the rails, and I am able to back it up and get it back on the track. This is where we are at this point. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and following along as we get everything done. Have a great week. Everybody take care.